Hi, I'm Brad Allen from bradallendrums.com. In this lesson, I'm going to go into more detail about mastering the double stroke roll. I'll also give you some very specific exercises to practice with and with detailed instructions. And those exercises are available on my website for those of you who are interested. To recap, one of the things I mentioned in my other lesson, Mastering the Double Stroke Roll Part 1, the first thing you need to be able to do to play a good double stroke roll is to be able to bounce the stick off the drum head or practice pad. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with quarter notes. Practice quarter notes as half strokes and full strokes. They should also be practiced at lots of different dynamics. Practice medium loud, practice soft. So here's some examples. Half strokes. Full strokes. Now, when you're starting out, you might have to go with a very loose grip for those, which is fine. So when you're practicing double strokes as quarter notes, we're actually getting single strokes with each hand. And this is important for developing control over the sticks and eventually the double stroke roll. When practicing full and half strokes, start with a very loose grip. Make sure you can bounce the stick off the head before you start putting all your fingers around the stick. As you start to work up your speed, and especially for practicing at medium and softer dynamics, put all your fingers around the stick. Learning to play double stroke rolls is a combination of letting the stick do the work and controlling the sticks. You can't develop good control of the sticks until you have all your fingers around the stick. So you also want to practice that way. Okay, next we'll practice double strokes as eighth notes. Now, when practicing double strokes as eighth notes, you can stop practicing the full and half strokes, but continue practicing at a wide range of dynamics. 1 inch off the drum head, 3 inches, 6 inches, etc. Again, keep all fingers around the sticks. Maintain a controlled but completely relaxed grip. Don't squeeze the sticks. Gradually work up your speed using a metronome. Practice the exercise 20 times or more at each speed before moving up the metronome. Try to get the same sound every time you hit the drum. The second stroke should sound equally as loud as the first note. This will eventually result in a powerful, clean roll. So let's see, here's eighth notes. A little faster. A quick note about accents. Several students have asked me if I accent the second double stroke in an effort to make sure it's as strong as the first stroke. The answer is no. While I know that any accent practicing you do will give you more control over the sticks in general, I don't feel like it's a good way to learn to teach. I don't feel like it's a good way to teach a student to learn to do a double stroke roll. Eventually you want to get 2 bounces from the stick. And so if you're accenting the second stroke, this actually keeps you from getting the second bounce you're after. Therefore, I usually prefer to keep accents as a separate exercise altogether. As you increase the speed and develop a feel for double strokes, you'll find that basically you'll start getting 2 bounces out of each stick, which is exactly what you want. In the beginning and at slower tempos, you will just be doing 2 quick single strokes with each stick, which is fine. You're still, basically at this point, you're still developing more control over the sticks. The next exercise is to help you develop the ability to get a double stroke from the stick. For this exercise, start with a loose grip. Bring the stick down and let it bounce twice. Then do the same with the other hand. Start with the sticks high and practice loud. It's easier to get a more natural bounce practicing loud in the beginning. And then gradually you want to increase your speed. Eventually it'll start to even out into 16th notes, which is exactly what you want. So I'll give you a little demonstration here. So individually. Again, notice I'm very loose in the beginning, which is fine. You can develop control later, but you want to get that double bounce. As I go faster, this will eventually become 16ths. Okay, so then the next exercise is actually 16th notes. First way to practice the 16th notes is exactly as I described in the previous exercise. Start by practicing isolated double strokes and gradually increasing until they're even 16th notes. You can then gradually slow down again back to your broken isolated double strokes, and this is called practicing open to closed. The second way of practicing is exactly the way you practice the eighth notes. Practice with a metronome at all tempos and all dynamic levels. Again, at the slower tempos, you're actually going to be doing 2 single strokes with each hand, but at faster tempos, you will do a double stroke with each hand. This takes a lot of experimenting to get the right feel, but eventually it becomes second nature. Don't be afraid to revert back to the completely loose grip with some of the fingers off sometimes in order to learn to get the double bounce of the stick. But also spend some of your practice time with the fingers on the stick. That's ultimately what you want, but sometimes it's a gradual process. Many times when students put all their fingers on the stick, they start to tighten up. So be very aware of any tension in your hand and let the stick do most of the work. In the next exercise, we'll add 32nd note double strokes to groups of 16th notes. And this will further develop your control over the double strokes as well as your speed. So I'm going to play through the exercise here. Slow it down a little bit. Start on a quarter note equals 60. I'm going to count out loud here just so you know exactly where I'm at here. So again, we're doing the double strokes as 32nd notes. So if this is 16ths, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 2, 3, 4. If I go a little slower, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 2, 3E and a 4E, 1E and a 2E and what you want to do with those, again, is you want to practice them at all dynamic levels and gradually work up your speed. And then the last exercise here is I wrote out an exercise in 2/4 where basically you're doing a continual string of 16th notes, just right, left again, and then you put diddles on various notes within that grouping. And this basically develops your ability to play double strokes anywhere within a 16th note grouping. And again, this will develop more control over your double stroke roll. And what I recommend for this is first practice them without accents, and then once you're comfortable, accent the diddle itself. So I'll give you some examples here. I'm not going to play through the whole exercise because it's rather long, but basically it's going to go like 1E and a 2E and a 1E and a 2E and a 1E. So that's on the first 16th note. If I accent it, it's going to sound like this. 1E and a 2E and a 1E and a 2E. And then the second one is on the next note, which is E, the E of 1E. 1E and a 2E and a 1E and a 2E. The second one, if I do that as an accent, it's going to sound like this. 1E and a 2E and a 1E and a 2E. If you practice with the accents, that's going to give you even more control over your double stroke roll. And again, I have all these exercises written out on my site. They are available for download. I guess that's about it for today. In the next lesson, I'll cover double strokes as applied to triplet patterns. Please be sure and send me any messages, any questions you have, and we will see you next time.